Greetings to everyone from Hungary. Welcome to this session from Europe and Africa. We will hear symposium talks on the theme of the convention by 3 speakers. So, without further delay, allow me to introduce the first speaker of this session, who is Svyatoslav Lipsky. He was born in Moscow, Russia in 1982. He has a degree in teaching languages and is working in Moscow schools teaching English. In 2009, he defended a PhD thesis in pedagogy. Svyatoslav has been studying the theosophical literature since 1999 and attended his first TS meeting in 2009. In 2012, he started the work of creating a website which is devoted to the life and works of HPB and provides free access to the text translated into Russian. He is a member of the White Lotus Theosophical Group based in Moscow. He has been a member of the Theosophical Society since 2019. He has been a speaker and interpreter at several conferences. The title of Svyatoslav's talk is Happiness Through Mastering Our Mind.
Greetings, dear brothers and sisters all over the world, attendees of the 146th International Convention of the Theosophical Society. Thinking about living in the now and challenges of inner life, which is the theme of this year's convention, let us consider how we can master our mind to be happy. All spiritual seekers aspire towards perfection or truth, and it is something that brings us true happiness. It has many aspects, and we can feel especially attracted to one of them in any given period of our lives. And some of us are generally more inspired by wisdom, some by beauty, some, let's say, by freedom that spiritual discipline gives us, and some maybe by love and sincere care about the well-being of others. So the aspects are many, but this truth or this perfection is really one. And it must necessarily include the highest ultimate degree of all these aspects, because otherwise it would not be perfect. And so, moving forward on these many paths to that which motivates our spiritual search, we get happier with every successful step we take. In our life, there are many things that can support us and support our motivation to understand, develop, and transform ourselves. And those things are very precious in our lives. They are our good friends. Be that a piece of beautiful music, a poem, a spectacular landscape, a wise book, or an image, or maybe an action that we see and that makes our hearts glow. They all are very helpful in the lives that we live, lives which are filled by various and often challenging experience. However, it seems very clear that the very goal of our search cannot lie outside ourselves. Nothing outside us in the external world that we perceive by our senses can bring us true happiness. We can see it because true happiness is not an object, not a place, not a living being, not an occupation or any kind of external process, but rather it is an inner state. However, from the moment we are born, we start creating habits of perception that make our mind run away and constantly turn to the external. I believe that if we look deeply at what motivates our attention to constantly chase the objects of senses, we may perhaps find that it is the desire to experience pleasure and to avoid feeling something that is unpleasant. Then we could say that our mind has a very powerful tendency to look for happiness in the wrong place, always turning outside instead of coming back to itself, to our inner dimension. It is just like a person who lost something valuable in the street and is looking for it under a streetlight, not because it's where they lost it, but because the light is good and it is convenient to look. Also, whenever we attain something that we thought we wanted in the world outside, we inevitably find two things. One is that it is not exactly what we imagined, and two, our mind is already looking for something new. So this race seems unending. Therefore, one fundamental challenge that we face when trying to reach our goal, the goal of our search, is to turn inside and to stop endlessly chasing external things. But our mind does more than just that. Not only does it run away to a wrong place in search of happiness, but it constantly runs away to a wrong time also. Always trying to find something that feels pleasant and reject all that feels unpleasant, it constantly turns to the future or to the past, and so misses the only time where happiness can be found, the present. As a well-known aphorism says, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why we call it present. It is the only time where we can change our life and change ourselves. And actually, we always do it every moment. So how unfortunate it may seem that we so vastly miss this present, the chance to consciously participate in the process. The most of the time it happens, so to say, without our presence. That is, without us being really aware of what is happening and with our attention busy elsewhere, either going back into the past or running towards imaginary future. But karma, which is the entirety of our life, is both created and lived now. In fact, there is just no other time where we can live, except the moment of now. The Buddhist Dhammapada tells us that a wise person straightens their mind like fletchers who make arrows straighten the arrows that they make. It is with this straightened arrow of our attention that we can slay the slayer of the wheel of the voice of the silence. In other words, to overcome the tendency of our mind to get constantly distracted and to create innumerable illusions that constitute a great part of our life experience. There is an understanding in meditation traditions that as our body becomes stronger when it moves, so our mind becomes stronger when it stays still and peaceful, not expending its energy in a chaotic way. These two things seem ever to represent a challenge for us, since our body really likes to lie down and rest, while our mind always likes to run all over the place. And yet, it is in quieting the mind that it becomes truly strong. This mastery of our attention is really a priceless key to all achievements in life. Whatever we wish to gain in the external world or in our inner development, our success fully depends on how we can focus and use our attention. On the other hand, if we cannot stop our mind from wandering, then whatever we do, including our job or spiritual practice, the results will be poor. Just how powerful this tendency is to miss the moment of now, we can soon realize when we start to practice simple meditation. To master our mind, we should develop something that we can perhaps call a true asceticism. We know that the mind is the chief power in our manifested world. The initial impulses that give rise to thoughts then trigger corresponding words and physical actions. The mind is the forerunner of all things, as is stated in the same Dhammapada. So if we have three paths of action, mind, speech, and body, then our mind is the superior one, and mastering of one's mind is the main task. Therefore, the true asceticism is the one of thought. It is not about not doing what we want to do, but it is about not thinking it, rather. And this prevents the very desire from arising, but at the same time blocking the way of external actions when the thought is active and works, producing more and more desire, is useless. and actually counterproductive, as the seminal theosophical article Elixir of Life clearly explains. In the famous Chinese epic story Journey to the West, our mind seems to be symbolized by the Monkey King, Sun Wukong, who, when unruly, used to be the greatest of demons, causing unspeakable problems. But when it becomes loyal to the higher self, it also becomes its greatest strength and protagonist. And of course, this character shows very clear resemblance to the Lord Hanuman of Indian Ramayana, symbolizing perhaps the same ideas. The power of the tendencies that make our mind run away to the wrong place and time in search of happiness may be explained because, in a way we may say, that we have been practicing them constantly since our birth in this incarnation and many, many lives before. But however difficult the task may seem, the longest road starts with one small step, and it can only be taken from the spot where we are standing at the moment. They also say, it's the job that's never started that takes longest to finish. Confucius reportedly believed that the man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones, and Antoine de Saint-Exupéry in his prayer asks the Lord to teach him the art of little steps. So by training our attention step by step, we come to greater mindfulness of both internal and external worlds. Coming back to the perfection or truth or happiness that we all seek in our own way, we see that many spiritual traditions explain that it is already inside us. Even now, this very moment, our spiritual sun is shining. It is here within us and has always been here. We can call it many different names: our divine nature, the nature of Christ or of Buddha, our higher self, Atman, or anything else, but it is the source of perfect happiness and also of perfect freedom, perfect wisdom, perfect beauty, harmony, and so it is our goal. The question is then how to remove the obstacles that prevent us from perceiving it. If we truly wish to eliminate the negative factors of our mind, the clouds that block away our inner sun from us, we should first perceive them clearly, or in other words, to become mindful of them. To influence something we cannot perceive is impossible. That again requires attention. So when our attention is well directed, our mindfulness grows. And becoming clearly aware of some elements of our inner psychic reality, we also find the ability to influence them for the good. This influence, sufficiently developed, becomes a newly found self-control on a level inaccessible to us before. So we can consciously transform ourselves engaging in the process of bhavana, or cultivation of our mind, increasing what is good in us and removing what is bad. However, the magic of mindfulness is such that very often we find that it is unnecessary to perform such self-surgery on our mind, so to say. Actually, sometimes it is unnecessary to do anything intentionally. Mindfulness itself may be enough. Out of 5 skandhas of Buddhist philosophy, the one creating karma is called samskara. It is said to include 52 mental factors of the mind. Among them are desire and aversion, restlessness, mindfulness, concentration, and many others. Some are wholesome, some unwholesome, and some are neutral. But they all color our consciousness in their own way, according to their own characteristics. And the karmic results of those impulses, whether they bring us happiness or suffering, depend on our motivation. Now, as each mental factor has its own characteristics and qualities, so also does mindfulness. And the wondrous quality of mindfulness is that it attracts all other wholesome mental factors into the moment when it is present. It has been described once as a party of wholesomeness. And so all those beneficial mental factors coming together bring us supreme benefit, and move all things to their own natural and perfect state. Like the alchemical alkahest, the universal solvent in alchemy, the light of attention solves problems and removes the imperfections, bringing all things to their original perfect essence. So by training our attention, we come to mindfulness, which brings us true happiness, helping us find that truth or that perfection that we all seek in our own way. May I wish all of us to be less of a thinker and more of a knower, and let the sunlight of attention melt away the snow of obscurations and the ice of delusions with the warmth of mindfulness, and bring us true happiness. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Svyatoslav, for stressing the importance of meditation and showing us how the mastery of our attention is really a priceless key to happiness.